Hi everyone. We are super excited in the team of Here to Start Fest, presenting today Diego Noriega. Diego Noriega is from Argentina, and he is talking today about redefining entrepreneurial success, a perspective beyond Silicon Valley rules. I'm sure that this is a topic that everyone is going to love because Diego has been working in more than 20 startups. He has founded more than 20 startups since 1999, and he has been a mentor for more than 1,000 entrepreneurs. And he's also a speaker, an international speaker of hundreds of events during the year. He has been also involved with the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and he's a very active member of Endeavor in the north of Argentina. He's also working with the EO organization, that is an organization for entrepreneurs, and ASEA, that is the organization for entrepreneurs in Argentina, among others. He's also a mentor, an advisor, and he has been not only invested in more than 20 companies, but he's also an investor in more than 10. So Diego, we are so excited of having you here this morning, and please tell us what's the secret, what are the best keys to highlight in ecosystems such as Silicon Valley, or what do you have to tell us about it?
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Marce. I know that you love me very much, so it's not a surprise. Probably it's way too much. But yes, I think that the main topic here that we are discussing is about a new way, a new path towards entrepreneurial success. What does it mean to be successful? At the end of the day, it's not only your valuation, it's not only what you have built, it's not about the size of your company. I've learned through a lot of mistakes that is not really what fulfills you. It's not what really makes you happy. At the end of the day, what I believe is the most important thing is how much impact have you created? What are the most important things in order to build your purpose, and the way that you do this with partners instead of employees. So this is very challenging. I know that there's going to be a small discussion because I believe that actually the relationship between owner and employee is broken, totally broken. And I believe in a new way of relationships that is among partners. And another thing that I learned is that you don't have to start asking yourself, what am I building, but why I'm building this. Probably you have heard about Simon Sinek and the Golden Cycle. It's very important to define your purpose, and there is where you have a path to fulfillment and to inspiration, and to not only for yourself but for the rest of the team, for your clients, for your partners, for even for your competition. Competition is great, right?
Diego, now that you have been talking about being an employee, what recommendation would you give to entrepreneurs, or maybe to people who's thinking about entrepreneur? What's the recommendation that you will give them if they are thinking about looking for a job? Why they should start something by their own, or why they actually currently go ahead as an employee? What's the difference?
Well, first of all, I don't like to give advice. I actually try to tell my experience, and everyone should make their own decision. What I learned is that you have to do what it's inside, what you believe, what what you trust. And do you know the framework called Ikigai, the Japanese framework that is, what you're good at, what you should do, what the market needs, and what they are paying you for. Okay, when the four things are together, it's something that is undescribable, what you feel, right? And what you are building each day through the passion that you put into action, right? So it's very hard to do this while you are an employee. Probably you can do it. I mean, it depends on your boss, it depends on the purpose of the company. But when I was in college, people would tell to me, my desire is to work for Coca-Cola, for example. And Coca-Cola sells poison. Sorry if someone is from Coca-Cola, but and they try to make you believe that they sell happiness, right? And
Yeah.
it's totally opposite. So millennials and centennials are more open to work with companies and to be part of teams that actually have deep purposes, great impact, and that the first goal is not the owner's outcome. I mean, how much money do they make? The goal is a common goal, and it's about generating a great impact, and it's about what you want to give out at the end of the day. What I don't know in English, it's yeah, but what you want to have in your cave, right? As a brand name, as an ideal of what you stand for. So if you are looking for a job, make sure that you that they represent for you. I mean, that you are totally aligned with the purpose of the company and your ideals. Now, if you don't connect with that, it's very hard to work for something, and you are working for money, and that is tough. It's difficult as hell.
Diego, now that you're talking about money, let's go back to Silicon Valley case. We have been there. I've been there for several times, and of course, money is the first driver. People just go there with a dream, and they start to create their own dream about, I don't know, having a lot of hours of working and having maybe sometimes the worst life ever because they spend whatever they are and all the time they have during this dream. So what components or what elements you think that the Silicon Valley must redefine, as we made the title of this talk? What do you think that they might be thinking about right now that money maybe is not what the principal or the principal driver that we should have in our lives?
Correct. So, do you know how you get introduced when you are in Silicon Valley?
What? Excuse me?
Um, do you know how you get introduced to people when you are in Silicon Valley?
With more
I've
people
done this because I visited my company to eBay, and then I became the general manager for eBay in Latin America. And they said, he is the X amount of money valuation of the company, then my company, Alamaula, and then Diego Noriega. So at the third topic is my name, is who am I, actually, right? And it's very difficult because money is just a tool to get something, to get somewhere, right? But your ideals are much more in deep. So I believe that in Silicon Valley it's like a huge scheme, but there are very few conversations that are actually the most important ones for your life. What you want to change. And when we're talking about change or innovation in this kind of ecosystems, you are talking about some industries, which is good, which is correct, but you're not changing lives, and that is what I believe what really matters, right? I believe that the most important ecosystems are the ones that are built with humanity, with a lot of social skills, soft skills like leadership, like communication, right? And there again is when we talk about communications among partners. It's totally different than when you're talking in a vertical communication on a vertical type of organization, which is crucial for your happiness and for your passion. Because probably you will feel right and good for a couple of months because you're working for a big company, but then you're not gonna feel fulfilled if you don't connect with your boss, which is several times very difficult. And I know that you had some experiences, and myself, of course. But when you're talking about partners, about building something very important for the next 20, 30 years, it's much more, it's very strong. And when you have the definition in two sentences about what the purpose is, there are a lot of decisions, strategic decisions, tactical decisions, operational decisions that will be totally aligned, and it will be so much easier to make decisions at the end of the day.
Diego, we have a question from our attendees. What is happening? What is happening in Silicon Valley at the moment that makes it unique for innovation? What do you think are these elements that make this ecosystem so unique?
I believe that the uniqueness of Silicon Valley is what you mentioned in the beginning. You have everyone that is there is just for building something huge. It's just for building a new unicorn, a 1 billion valuation company. And the rest of the stakeholders, investors, university, government, companies, and especially entrepreneurs, even NGOs are working toward that, which is, it makes it great. But I've seen other ecosystems in the world. For example, Israel, which is 100% towards innovation. And you know that it's awesome in that sense. I went there twice in 2018, sorry. And it's amazing how they work together. But the purpose is not just money. It's not just building something that is great. It's because otherwise Israel will not survive. They have enemies all over the place, and they want to raise them from the earth, right? So that tool and that innovation is probably begins in the military. When you have to 18 to 20 something years old, and then you can do it in private. But if you pay 20% of the outcome of the earnings, right? And by doing that, it's awesome because you are promoting science. You are promoting that is a great career that you can make. Going first to defend your country, and then, which is the biggest purpose that you can have. You're not defending your country, but you're defending your family, and you're defending yourself, right?
When you founded these 20 companies, have you ever think about being a unicorn? To become a unicorn?
Yeah? That was my ideal. First, I wanted to build companies, build teams. Okay, I got that. Then I wanted to export. Export. I did this. And export from the countryside of Argentina, which is not very typical, right? And then I got that, and it was great. But actually, it lasts 2 or 3 days of happiness. Then I said, oh, okay, but this is not actually my goal. This is not what I'm trying to achieve, right? This is not actually that my daughter will feel proud of me, right? So then I said, okay, I want to build companies that I can exit. And I did it. And I exited with a great company. eBay bought us. And I wasn't fulfilled. And then I said, no, you know what? I need to build a unicorn. I need to do an IPO. And I started the path towards that. So that was after I exited my company, I founded a new one, which was something like the Airbnb of Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
I've raised money, 2.5 million, to start the company, and I've done so many mistakes, strategic mistakes. For example, instead of building the right MVP, discover the process of building the product and build the channels for that, get into product market fit, and even more product market channel model fit. Instead of doing that, I had enough money and I needed to run. I needed to make the biggest company in vacation rentals in Latin America, because my competition was running very fast. That was Airbnb. So making the local Airbnb was very hard in one country. It was even harder in 5 countries, 5 teams, 10 companies
Mm-hmm.
in one. It was a mess. So the goal of being a unicorn, I think that was empty. And that's why I lost a lot of money with 7 numbers. And I also lost a lot of money from my investors. And it was because of my fault, because I didn't put the right purpose at the top of what I was building. And then I became a lot of, frustration is very usual when you do that. As I said before, it has a great skin. I've raised $2.5 million, but then in the deep inside, you don't have a product, you don't have a solution, and worst of all, you don't have a team. I had collaborators, I had people that work for me, but the dream was to make me rich. The dream was to have a unicorn company, make an IPO. And I that's why I confront this, and I think that there is another way of building companies that probably can last a lot longer. It's not just a 3 to 5 years goal.
You love to say that you are a promoter of the values. You always speak about collaboration, cooperation, everything. So let's tell to our attendees more about it. Where this idea come from, and why you're pursuing this.
Well, it's connected to what I just said, that I had the two Diegos. The one that was just the ego of Diego Noriega, the founder of a billion company, the founder of other successful companies. And I wasn't happy doing that. And then you have the other Diego, which is someone that is promoting successful companies that can be built with many co-founders. And each co-founder can generate a lot of value that is complementary in terms of profile, in terms of skills. We have the same values, but it's totally complementary with, for example, you are great at communication. I've enjoyed a lot working with you, Marce, and we could be partners. And I know that in the future we're going to be partners, but because you're awesome at that, and probably I can complement because I'm good at strategy and I'm good at other topics, and we can search for the other people in the team that are great in technology, in product building, right? So at least you have 4 different partners that can be part of this collaboration, this co-founding of the company, right? And not only that, I think that co stands for courage, and you need big balls, we say in Argentina, in order to make decisions like money is not first. And I think that deep purpose and meaningful topics and meaningful discussions and conversations, another call, are more important than money.
Besides money, and besides, of course, the team that we already spoke about it, what elements do you think that must be different also with the Silicon Valley ecosystem? What else should we think about as an ecosystem, maybe in Netherlands, maybe here in Latin America, what else should we take in account? Because sometimes when I've been working in different ecosystems like Chile, like I don't know, Peru, the one you mentioned in Tel Aviv, London, Berlin, there are so many cities with this great ecosystems, spaces, institutional interaction, great opportunities to catch people for their teams and all these elements. What else do you think that it must be really important for the ecosystems to have?
Well, Marce, I believe in reducing the percentage of companies that are failing. Because once that a company fails, it means that a team has failed. It means that a lot of families are not going to be fulfilled by accomplishing a dream,
Mhm.
right? And failing is really hard. Failing sucks, and it's great about talking about failing and failure, but it's very hard to live it through. So I don't recommend it for anyone. So what if we change the 1% of company that could be successful potentially in Silicon Valley and change it for 99% of company that can and must be successful? Probably not as big companies, probably SMBs, small and medium businesses that can be sustainable. And again, when that you talk about sustainability, you have to talk about purpose. And I'm sorry that I've mentioned this 5 times now, but I think that is the crucial question, and it's hard to define it. I believe that we have to work together with government, NGOs, even investors. I think that investors are awesome for the ecosystem, are very, very important, right? But not for each stage, and probably not to spend a couple of $100,000 in an idea that is not validated. Probably once that you have validated the idea and that you have some intuition of approaching and achieving product market fit, there is the time to get the investment.
We have one more question from our. Oh, sorry, Diego, go ahead.
So you can grow and scale your company, and that's amazing, but it's not for every company. And here in Silicon Valley and Argentina, and I'm probably sure that in Europe as well, we are talking about, how much money did you get from investors? And each dollar should be like an extra pound or an extra kilo in your backpack, right? It's not good that you get investment. Now you have a lot of obligations with a lot of people.
When do you think that we can? Yeah.
Sorry, at the end of the day, to define it in one word, I believe in healthier entrepreneurial ecosystems.
Great. Totally agree. So when do you think we can define a company or a project as a failure? Let's talk about failure.
Well, a company usually fails when you can no longer continue with operations, and that is because you run out of money, right? So that's the typical word of failing. Now, I've discovered that failing is also not building something with your values, the most important things of your values, on what you stand for, and not continuing with your ikigai, right? Failing is not only when you build something, but failing is also when you don't build something that really it should be interesting, it should be important, it's good for the world, right? So I have several definitions of failing, but the most important one is that when you don't build something towards your goal, your long-term goals, and you don't build it with the right values and with the right people. And in order to prevent failure, you have to work a lot towards that. Build relationships, work, talk, stay there, not just looking at your computer, but also building relationships that is when trust happens, right? Is when confidence approaches you, and when you can, be blind, but you know that the rest of your teammates are going to stand there for you.
When you think about products and services, would you think that maybe it's better to think about the value proposition?
Sure. I think that it's solutions, right? Problems. And now with the COVID-19, we have 7 billion people with new problems. That brings us a lot of opportunities, especially for entrepreneurs that we are, trying to innovate and to change. We embrace change. We embrace innovation, and it's not the right. It's not the attitude that the rest of the people that don't have the entrepreneurial mindset. They don't have that, right?
Mhm.
So you, as an entrepreneur, you should, go be there and stand for the needs of the market that you want to attend, right? And it has to be totally connected with the purpose. And in general, the purpose is built with a specific pain. As an example, I mentor and coach entrepreneurs, and it's because it's very difficult to run a startup. It's very difficult to grow it, and it's even harder to scale it, right? So that was my pain, and that's where is my goal, my long-term goal, right? So yeah, I believe in that, in solutions to the
Yeah,
market. And
we
to
only
get solutions, you have to talk a lot with your potential clients. You, not just an agency that makes surveys, right?
Yes, totally agree. Well, we have less than 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna just ask you the last question from our attendees. What can you? I know that you don't like to advise, but here's the question. So, what can you suggest as entrepreneurs we have to look forward in this moment of crisis to survive? What are the essentials to keep in mind? What to do in this crisis moment as
I would
entrepreneurs?
mention to think about the new type of leadership, the co-leadership, right? And the co of connection. Connect with your clients, talk a lot, ask them, what do they need? What are the new needs, right? Ask them if what your solution is good, is bad. What are the problems, right? That is not failure. It's totally the opposite. And when you talk to a client, when you connect with a client, it's someone that will be your promoter, your ambassador, your advocate, right? Connect with your team. It's very important. Build strong, high performance teams. Don't think about what is the best idea, but think about the purpose that is connected with you and the team that could go to war against Nazis, against Italians, against US, against Iranians, against whoever is the competition, right? And most important, believe in yourself. It's time for change. We are approaching to a new era. Thanks God, finally. And we have to talk about the deepest things and fears about ourselves and put them into action. Right now is the moment. Don't procrastinate and say, I'll do it for tomorrow. No, I cannot wake up. I cannot do this. It's time for change. And we have to lead by example and build the processes in order to delegate it, in order to build scalable companies. Now is the time.
Diego, such a great messages you left for us, and thank you so much on behalf of Here to Start Fest for your participation during this webinar. And I hope you can keep in touch with us, because for sure you have a lot to share with us as a
It will be a
mentor,
pleasure.
and as a
Thank
human
you
being.
very
So
much for having me.
thank you so much, and have a great day, and have a great rest of the afternoon for our European attendees. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.